Ciao friends, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. I am still getting over the flu, believe it or not. It's been almost a month. So I'm trying to edit out the coughing and throat situation, but I am so excited because I have been thinking about a design. It's a new twist on an old favorite. I love Lariat necklaces. I think one of you, maybe a year ago, called me the queen of Lariat necklaces, and I guess I am. I really like them. So what you see here, and if you want to make this along with me, you need to go into your stash and get like a pretty accent bead, a button. I have this one. A shank button would probably work as well, but I have this one that looks like a chaton crystal, and you string straight through the bottom. And what I have here is a really special mille fiori, really small pendant that I brought back from Italy last year. I bought quite a few of these at a shop that was closing because the owners were retiring, and that's going to be the final drop. And then these were from Softflex Company back in the holiday time, and I didn't use them, but they're this beautiful like satin gold bugle bead. But mostly this is going to be a stringing, very easy, relaxing stringing project, and I'm going to be using seed beads. So let me show you my little seed bead tray. This is a little set of 2. I love stringing from these. So to make this project affordable, I have some inexpensive, literally clearance craft store seed beads. They are 12 O's, 11 O's would work just fine here. Or you could, scale this up and do a little bit larger seed bead, but it's going to be a rather long necklace, so this will help the budget. And then I have some turquoise, because as you can see, this is going to be a turquoise and gold project. So I have this beautiful, it's called Lined Light Seafoam AB. So it's a really gorgeous bead, and I'm going to dot my stringing with that. And then I have these really beautiful Perma Finish old gold 11O seed beads. If you're not familiar with Perma Finish or the galvanized Duracoat, especially with metallic seed beads, and especially something that's going to be touching your skin, that finish costs a little bit more, but it definitely is worth it, because especially when you have like a lot of stringing, because it will keep it from darkening, it keeps the finish from rubbing off, and your piece of work will last for a really long time. So I'm also going to be using my number 2 crimp tubes from Softflex Company. I'll show you how they come. I always keep a supply of these. I'm sorry, I'm reaching behind me. They come like this. They are gold filled. They're very high quality. They have a really nice thick wall, as opposed to some of like the, I'll call them knockoff brands. And I'm going to be using the 49 strand EconoFlex in the gold color. I absolutely love this stringing material. It's hard to tell on the camera, but it's so soft. It almost feels like fabric, and there are 49 little cables inside this gold casing. So to start off with, I am going to make my first loop at the bottom, and I just started off by stringing this little pattern that will form my loop. All my aqua seed beads dotted with those gold ones, and then I fed on one of my number 2 crimp tubes. And now I did not measure this, and I know that makes some of you crazy, but I literally took it off the spool and put this around my neck to see how big I wanted it, the loop that would go around my neck, and then how long I wanted my final drop. So I'm going to form a loop. I'm going to I'm sorry I'm out of the camera, but get the other end and go back down through my number 2 crimp tube and just pull it tight, just to make my first, well, it's my first loop in the project, but it's also going to be what I attach my beautiful mille fiori pendant to. And I'm going to embellish that pendant with those beautiful check glass teardrop beads, and I'll kind of design when I get to that, but that's what I am planning to do. So just pull that into a loop. It only needs to be big enough to accommodate jump rings, or I think I will probably take the little bail off of this, but it only needs to be big enough for that. And I'm going to just, I don't want to waste my wire, so I'm going to back this down a little bit so I don't have so much of a tail wire. And then I'm going to take my magical crimping plier. You could also do your normal fold over crimp here and put a crimp cover on it. But when I'm using 11-0 seed beads in a project, I really love this tool because the bead, once it's crimped, and it looks like an 11-0 seed bead. So make a square with 4 pinched corners. And here's where people go wrong with this. You want to go in the opposite direction, but before you close the tool, make sure you can feel that your square is in the middle. There's only one divot, and then when you close, you have started to form a bead, and then you just go around a few times. You can also, if you don't get a good crimp, a pretty smooth bead, you can put a crimp cover right on top of a magical crimped bead, or if it just looks too small, if you want a little bit more of a statement, you can put a crimp bead right over your bead. And I could see that I can actually do a little more forming. If you take it out and you feel like you didn't get it, you can go a couple more times around. That looks really good. So pretty. And now I am simply going to start stringing. I will do all of these things last. So I'm going to be working from the bottom up, and I'm just going to string a pattern with these seed beads. And when I get up to the part that's going to go around my neck, I'll put it around my neck and decide where I'm going to string this button on. So let me get stringing. Oh, I also want to cut these open because I think I'm going to just intersperse these beautiful, I don't even know what color these are, but they're like a satin gold. They're just so gorgeous. And I thought they would be really pretty in with my collection of seed beads. So I am just going to start stringing. I will do most of this off camera because, it's like watching grass grow or paint dry to watch somebody thread seed beads. But I do love these little trays. It comes in a set of 2, and when I have to string really small beads, I find this makes it effortless. So I'm gonna string. I already know I should have trimmed this first because I already know that this will not fit back into 11-0 seed beads. The 11-0 seed beads won't hold 2 strands. So let me just trim that away. And I'm just going to string. Let's see what my bugle beads look like on here. Oh yeah, it's so pretty. So pretty. So pretty, and it looks so beautiful with my pendant and my button. So I'm going to keep going. I still have quite a few inches left to do. So I am at this point, and this is where I'm going to thread on my button and just let it fall down, and then I'm going to keep stringing, and these beads the button doesn't slide over these beads. So I'm just going to put a few on, and I'll give you measurements of what I'm doing for myself in case it gives you a jumping off point, but you can totally adjust this design for your own liking. So I like my necklaces very long, And let me get a ruler and show you. So this part, this final loop where my pendant and my little embellished final drop is going to be, lands just above my belt. It's like just at my waist, I guess. And so I did this part of my necklace about 10.5 inches. So this is the drop part. And then what's up here, I'll continue stringing my bead pattern. This is the part that goes around my neck. So I would suggest you put your string around your neck, because if you like it more of a choker length, your loop here will be shorter. For me, I don't like things too close to my neck, so mine's going to be a bit longer. So my button is going to land like just below my collarbone, or just like where the collar of a shirt or top would land. But when I get it all strung, I'll give you measurements in case it helps you. But this is completely adjustable. If you like shorter necklaces, you can shorten the entire thing. And if you want it a lot more dramatic, of course, you add more stringing. So I am going to keep going with my pattern. And so I'm working on the part now that will go around my neck. So it's just looking so good, so pretty, and I'm going to keep going. Okay, my stringing is done. Let me clean up my mess a little bit, and I'll show you where I'm at. I love this little tray for cleanup. Oh my goodness, it's so great. You just unscrew the cap and just send all the seed beads you didn't use without any mess back down into the tube. I love that I don't lose any of my seed beads. They don't go all over the floor. Okay, let me show you where I am at. I have my Mille Fiori pendant. I took a piece of 20 gauge soft flex craft wire and just did this little stack. These items that you're looking at in the gold are from Purity Beads. They're solid brass. They're gold plated and then e-coated so that they keep that color. So I have a couple of little 4mm disc spacers, just kind of accentuating this beautiful check glass bead that matches. And I'm going to do one of my small little ring components as well. And I think I'm going to connect everything with jump rings. But before I embellish my final drop, let me show you what's going on here. So for me, this is the right length, and I can put a ruler on this if you want, if you want to know what my measurements are. It's a little bit long for my beading mat, but this is going to be a front closure on this button. So this long drop here is kind of the Y part of the necklace, or the long part of the lariat, and all of these are going to hang where I can see them, which is, I love that design. When I have something so beautiful and precious to me that I brought back from Italy and check glass, I really like to put it where I can see it and, play with it throughout the day. So from my loop to my button is 10.5 inches almost exactly. And then the part that goes around my neck, this part here, let's see, give you the approximate 10.5, so 21 inches. So 21 inches is going around my neck, so which is for me like pretty much the shortest necklace I would wear. But if you wanted to do this 18 or 16 or make this part choker like, you totally could do that. So let me show you how we're going to finish this off. I have a number 2 crimp tube, and I'm just gonna feed that down. And then I just did this little bead pattern that is going to be my loop closure that fits around this button. So on this small loop, I just needed enough to get some jump rings to add my dangles. But this loop here, I wanted it to be all in my turquoise beads. So I did 2 turquoise, a gold, 2 turquoise, a gold, until I had what I think is going to be the right length. So I'm going to feed that wire back down through the number 2 crimp tube and pull it really tight. And then I've actually put this around my neck. I already did my little tester, but the goal here is for this loop to fit perfectly over this button. So it's going to look like that. This part goes behind my head, and then this part hangs in the front. So I'm going to do the same thing that I have done on this loop here with the magical crimping plier. And this is a spot where, you know, I'll look at it and see, but I may put like a fluted crimp cover on top of this. I'll look at it and see. Sometimes you want something a little bit bigger than what you get with the magical crimping plier, but I'll have a look at it and see. So particularly cautious here because I have seed beads below my crimp tube and above my crimp tube, and I really don't want to crush any of them and have weird gaps in my stringing. And I'm also going to make sure that this is not in a straight line. So I know that I don't have any gaps, but when I crimp, I do want to have this very fluid, and you know, I want it to go around my neck in a scarf-like manner. So I'm just going to pull that loop tight, close my tool. So I've made a little square with 4 corners, and now just fit that in the opposite direction. And even in this direction, I want to make sure that I only have my number 2 crimp tube in the tool and that I'm not chomping down on any of my seed beads. And you know, this is where like I just felt my tube fit in the very center of the tool. And you'll get a feel for it if you're struggling with this tool. And it's like riding a bicycle. Once you know how it feels in there, you'll get really good crimps every single time. It's just kind of like a feeling. So I'm just going to go around. And like I said, I might want to put a crimp cover on this. Sometimes I do just for decoration. It's not necessary on the magical crimping plier, but it does make a very small bead there. And so sometimes I just decide that I want it to be a little bit more substantial and I'll cover it. I have some really pretty fluted crimp covers that are decorative that I really like. Trim that away. And so now this loops right over my button to close my necklace. This part is around my neck, and it's just so beautiful. I don't know if I will put a crimp cover. The number 2 crimp tubes really mimic an 11-0 seed bead. So I may have to go to the mirror and decide about that. So now I can work on my decorative drop here, and I know that I'm going to remove this little bail. It says made in Italy, 925 sterling silver. And it has Murano on it because I bought this on the island of Murano. But I don't want this bail on here for my project, but I am going to save this. I'm going to put this in my little collection because when I want a bail, I'll have that. And the other thing that I'm going to do, and I can do it after, I'm going to take my Permalac anti-tarnish coating because this is sterling silver and plated, but I've already polished it a little bit, but I'm going to just like coat that rim with my anti-tarnish coating. Everything else that I've used, my craft wire, my Purity Beads items, they're all anti-tarnish, and even my number 2 crimp tubes are gold filled. So that little ring is the only thing I have to worry about tarnishing. So I'm going to make a tiny little like a ring. I'm going to make a beaded solid ring just to add into my stack here. And so I just have a little scrap of my 49 strand wire. And let me just back this down. I've done this before on my channel. But for newer people, if you haven't seen this, let me show you what this little thing is. So I just did a little section of seed beads. You can do it any size you want. Sometimes I dot this ring with gold. I'm not going to do that this time. I just want it to be solid turquoise. And then I put a number 2 crimp tube, and then I'm going to feed my other wire in the opposite direction. So go through the crimp tube in the opposite direction. I save my scraps of my soft flex wire in a little bag for things like this, so I'm not cutting off of my spool. So that's what I have, is my number 2 crimp tube and a wire coming through it that way and one that way, and I'm just going to pull. Now you can pull this tight if you want to. I usually do, but when the tool comes in here, it is going to push the beads out a little bit, but since this is a connector, you know, it'll be fine. I make these all the time. It's a little tricky to hold on to when it's such small seed beads. You can do this technique with microfaceted gemstones like 3 or 4 millimeter. You can actually do it with any size bead. I like to do it with seed beads, though. It adds a little something. So again, I'm just going to make sure that I feel that my crimp tube is in the center. I just take my time. When I start getting in a rush, that's when I don't have it just right. And I'm pulling both strands as tight as I can. And then I'm just going to close my tool. And so I've done that same thing. And then it's the exact same thing as crimping anything. Opposite direction. Just make sure I feel that it's in the center, close the tool, and then just on a ring, you can't really go around perfectly. You might even have to reposition your plier just because this one is so small. When I do these a little bit larger, they're a little bit easier, honestly, than the tiny ones. But I just put a little, looks like a little seed bead in the ring, and then I'm going to trim this wire as close as I possibly can. Let gravity help me, so I pull my wire in the opposite direction of my cutter and snip it. Okay, so I have a cute little connector ring, and then I'm going to use my gold filled diamond cut jump rings. Sorry for all the rattling, couldn't find them for a second. I love this little assortment of jump rings. There are 3 different sizes in here. They're diamond cut or twisted, so they sparkle, and they're gold filled, and they're really thick gauge, so they just work perfectly as an embellishment, but also if I need a closure on something. And I think what I'm going to do is put this like that. So let's do a simple loop here. I'm going to do my smallest 1-step looper, so this loop will match the one I did at the other end. I do have one of my tiny little gold seed beads right there at the end, and I want to be careful not to crush it. So when I just pull my stack down, that way I am clearing the jaw of the plier, and I got a little misaligned here, so just take my plier while I'm holding on to it in the tool, and I got my simple loop, and now I can open it and add it to my seed bead loop at the bottom of my Lariat necklace. I love this design because it's kind of 2 of my favorite necklaces. The Lariat, you know, you don't have a clasp at the back of your neck, but then it kind of looks like a Y necklace when it's on and connected, and that's another one of my favorite necklace designs, so I just love that. And then I'm gonna get, let's see, the medium. Oh no, I think I'm gonna stay with the small ones, the really small ones, and I'm going to do, let's see, maybe let's try that. Sometimes I do double jump rings, but I've done everything so small that that might be overkill on this. These are such good quality that it's even hard to find the opening sometimes. I'm just going to open it and add my little decorative ring and close it really well. And when you close these, like when you really get them closed with a diamond cutting, that it just disappears. It's just so pretty. And now I'm going to add my Mille Fiori pendant to the bottom of this little seed bead ring. If I can get a hold of my jump ring. And close it really well, and this necklace is done, other than just adding my anti-tarnish coating to my little pendant to keep that color. This is so pretty. I will definitely put some pictures up at the end. It is one of those things that's a little bit hard to see on my beading mat, but that's my final drop. It's like all my favorite things, and this gold and aqua is just so pretty together. I will put links in the description box to anything that I've used, that I know where I got it. My favorite tools are always there, and I thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. See you in the next video.